Week 23, Viva. What was Marcus Aurelius' legacy? Marcus Aurelius' political career was more or less a failure, and he even ended the Pax Romana. However, the most important part of Marcus Aurelius' legacy is his contribution to philosophy, mostly through his writings on, first, living the good life, secondly, the pursuit of justice, and thirdly, the purpose of piety. My first point is that in his writings, Marcus Aurelius teaches us how to live the good life. In his opinion, living stoically is the best way to live. Living stoically is about loving the world the way it is, rather than how you wish it would be. Humans naturally wish to extend their lives, but Stoics believe that since there is a natural pattern and cycle to life, so it is best not to live longer than is natural. Marcus Aurelius argues that men, quote, can have no other life except the one he loses. This means that the longest life and the shortest amount to the same thing, unquote. A Stoic believes that the good life is one that follows the natural pattern of existence. So how does one be happy? According to Marcus Aurelius, quote, nothing will really accomplish our goals besides being just, temperate, courageous, and free, unquote. It is also important that Stoics live always in agreement with nature and to not have unattainable desires, but we'll talk more about that later. To Stoics, pleasure and pain are not in themselves good or evil, but instead act as a guide to people. The significance is found in how one reacts to pain or pleasure. Pleasure and pain should therefore be treated as signals rather than ends. As uncomfortable as it is, pain importantly tells us when something is wrong. In rare cases where a genetic mutation causes insensitivity to pain, such as one Indian family, the condition can actually be quite dangerous. Members of this specific family have even fractured bones without feeling pain. It can also be seen how it would be difficult to teach children how to not do harmful things, like touching hot stones, if they cannot feel themselves being burnt. This goes to show that pain can be a good thing. The same could be said of our emotions, which can also be signals and should not be treated as ends. Stoics also believe that lives should be lived without impressions, and that wisdom is based on erasing impressions, such as looking at particular brands of clothing or food as being the best or great. Marcus Aurelius writes that because our experiences are contextualized, we can erase our impressions by putting objects in its correct cosmic context, and by breaking it down into breaking it down into its parts. One person, for instance, could see how much he wanted some Valerian wine, but in order to not give in to his desires, he should look at how the wine is just a bunch of grapes. The second point is that Marcus Aurelius argues that just actions are derived from thinking in terms of the collective rather than the individual. Besides being happy with our place in life, Marcus Aurelius teaches us to act justly. To him, acting justly means acting communally. He also says one should live as a citizen of the cosmic city. Our motivation for justice should be to the benefit of the community as a whole and the welfare of the cosmos. This aligns with the typical Roman view of justice, that whatever is best for Rome in the end is best to do. Stoics are not very concerned with virtue, but rather, whatever is done to benefit one part is advantageous to the whole of society. So how would a Stoic go about acting justly? Even though a Stoic does not believe food is essentially either good or bad, or that hunger is evil, according to Dr. Grady Parker, quote, a Stoic will respond to a hungry person with food, rather than lecture that food is not a good and hunger is not an evil, unquote. Of course, a Stoic would not Of course, a Stoic believes that one's efforts to feed the hungry may not actually benefit them. So, Marcus Aurelius recommends to be careful when pursuing justice in this way, and to make one's impulses conditional to what the outcome is fated to be. A Stoic might say that you shouldn't feel too good because you gave a homeless person food or money, because your help is unlikely to improve his life. Marcus Aurelius believed that it is better to benefit the community of the individual than to try and help the individual himself. Thirdly, in his writings, Marcus Aurelius argues the importance of piety. Roman piety was rooted in two things: learning from others and faith in providence. Marcus Aurelius learned from those around him. Throughout his life, he learned a lot from his role models and the philosophers around him. He could reference a virtue and point to who he learned it from. From his adoptive father, Antonius Pius, Marcus learned much, including to be compassionate, hardworking, to listen to people, and to adhere to his decisions. Maximus taught Marcus the importance of keeping yourself on the right path rather than being kept there. Marcus learned to read attentively from Rusticus, another Stoic philosopher. The other key idea in piety is that the cosmos is providentially designed. Therefore, it is as good as it can be. There is no advantage, therefore, to wishing it were otherwise. So, our attitude towards the world should be that of acceptance and love. To Romans, desire is not very pious, because it is passive. If you really wanted something, you should take it for yourself. According to the naturalistic point of view, as Marcus Aurelius states, quote, if the way things are is due to providence, then they could not be better, and it would be wrong to grumble. But if the way things are is due to chance, then it would be pointless to grumble, unquote. The Stoics reject the notion that the world is a result of random chance. In conclusion, although Marcus Aurelius' political career was pretty much a failure, his lasting impact on the world manifests itself in his philosophic writings, especially those on living the good life, pursuing justice, and the purpose of piety. Thank you.